What is up, guys? I've got a quick short little video for you. This was supposed to be a 3-minute video for Blue Sky, but the tarot cards turned out they had a lot to say, so I'm going to share it here so we can take kind of a deeper look at the message. Now, this spread is for Donald J. Trump over the next 30 days, and it is in regard to the loudest or most important upcoming event. I do want to clarify that we don't know what specific event this message pertains to. Maybe you all can figure that out in the comments, but either way, I have a feeling the answer will become pretty obvious pretty quickly. So to get started, there are several key themes, and I'm going to zoom out and kind of move the camera around because I laid this out like a 3x5 tableau. So let me just tilt this back up here. There are several key themes in this spread, and one of the major themes has to do with the desire to act alone without the input of others. We also have themes of boredom, impatience, recklessness. This spread shows a great deal of unhappiness in the way things are going and his desire to change things. Unfortunately, it also shows someone who is more willing to act on emotion rather than logic, even when the use of strategy is of the utmost importance. All right, so in the top line with the Four of Cups, we see someone who is closed off to suggestions and has outgrown a period of contentment. At this point, they are more willing and likely to act on feelings rather than rationale. And then we have with the Moon card here, the Moon indicates that this person is used to being the chooser and the one who makes the decisions. But right now, it's a time to start being more careful about choices. And this person may be in a state where they are unable to see the future clearly. So the Knight of Cups right here, this is a reference to thoughts derived from ego. And then the Five of Swords coming after it tells us that this person, that Donald Trump, is trapped in a self-made prison of negative energy from the past. Then by the time we get down to the Knight of Pentacles, we are seeing Donald Trump in a place of impatience, boredom, recklessness, and becoming complacent to the things that haven't worked or haven't been beneficial to him so far. So line 2, with the Six of Pentacles, we see a predictable cycle where Donald Trump is looking for physical attainment. This is a time of collection where money owed will be paid, both figuratively and literally. The Two of Cups is essentially your word and your will, because it's a 2. In this context with these cards here, I feel like it's more likely a reference to self-sufficiency and trust or lack thereof. And then again, we see another reference to chasing feelings rather than logic. Then interestingly, at the very center of the spread, we have the Judgment card. The Judgment card, this is the end of a life phase or like a rite of passage with profound and far-reaching effects. I don't want that to sound too positive. I know when I say rite of passage, that kind of has a positive connotation, but I don't think that this card, this energy in this context, has a very positive connotation. I feel like this comes with a lot of negative energy with all these cards around it. So I just wanted to point that out. But anyway, this is the main card and the main energy of the entire reading. It's right at the heart. So then we have right here, we have the Page of Cups or the Princess of Cups, which is reference to emotional detachment in this context and likely indicates this person's willingness to publicly take an emotional risk. And the Five of Pentacles basically indicates that he is willing to take a stand because whatever their current situation or his current situation has been, it's given him a sense of being out in the cold or left behind. I think he's feeling a lot of anxiety and worry that he's losing his rank because of a lot of external situations. And this is something that I've mentioned in a lot of my readings. I think Donald Trump feels like there are a lot of big egos around him and a lot of big personalities, and all of these people have agendas, And it's like everybody thinks now is my time to kind of get my agenda at the front and center of everything. And I don't think he likes that very well. So to me, this made a ton of sense based on all the other readings that I've done about him. We're on line 3 here. We're starting with the 8 of Cups. We see sorrow descending on pleasure. There is a big lack of strength when it comes time to react against this, whatever this energy is, the sorrow descending on pleasure energy. Can't fight against it. There's nothing that can be done. There's not enough. And this one was a little bit more abstract. The general meaning of this card, it come through really strong as something a bit deeper. So I feel like this is him abandoning something. I don't think that it's like a project or a task. I think that it's more of an approach. Maybe like the gloves come off, you know what I mean? But basically there is just this collective feeling of being too tired and too drained to continue on the same path with the same approach. Then we have the Wheel of Fortune, which represents a push to change these things. But, you know, at the same time, it also represents the consequences of your own actions. So once something is set into motion, there isn't much you can do to stop it. And then we get right here to the World card, which is quite simply completion. The choices have been made, and now all you can do is watch the situation play out. Then the next 2 cards side by side are very interesting, really interesting combination here. These are very opposite cards. And so when I first looked at this, I was like, oh, this is strange. Is this like a choice? Is this him, you know, picking a lane and going a different direction? Or like what does this mean? But the Hermit and the Hierophant are, I guess the main difference is like while the Hermit seeks to attain enlightenment, the Hierophant seeks to enforce traditional rules. So interestingly, every single card in the 3rd row has one theme in common, and that theme is completion. So whatever this message is about, there is something going to come to a big end very soon. Now, I don't know. I'm not saying that it's one thing or another. I have no idea. But there's just this really overwhelming sense of completion by the time we get to the 3rd line, which is interesting because it's the last line before the Fate line. Okay, so let's talk about the Fate line. So the final 3 cards here indicate an enigmatic but potentially frightening warning. Throughout this spread, we have seen someone who is indulging in emotional reaction rather than logical strategy. The Emperor is a force with great power and great control. They're focused on dominance and enforcing power. This is not the role where you want a reactionary person who leans toward emotion in times that require mental acuity. And then we have, like with the 9 of Swords here, this is a reference to negative thoughts and feelings as well as unfounded doom and disaster. And that really, to me, seemed like the most prominent message based on the theme of the reading is doom and disaster. So I'm kind of getting some scary vibes from this reading. I'm not going to lie, like it's a little bit spooky. Incidentally, though, you know, this can also point to a person who is more preoccupied with presenting themselves as a threat and being threatening rather than demonstrating or proving their strength. Do you know what I mean? It's like perfect description of Trump. Someone who is more concerned with appearing a certain way. Like he's so concerned with appearances that he isn't really showing us who he is in terms of like, you know, he thinks he's a strong leader, but we've never seen him in the role of a strong leader. We see him as a bully. We see him as someone who's posturing all the time. So lots of big energy coming from, you know, that part of the Fate line there. Then at the very end with the 7 of Swords, we get this reminder that the spread has clearly presented us with someone who is not above scheming and dishonorable acts and seems to prefer that over the option of mental strategy. So something I wanted to note about this spread is that I got so many really intense feelings about this when I started, after I laid it out and I kind of started looking at it. And so I actually, on a piece of notebook paper, I made a little graph and I started writing down the initial feeling of every card. And that's how I kind of got to having this overwhelming sense of oh my gosh, this is an important message about something, and we don't know. I have a feeling that I know what it's about. And I don't know if you guys remember, but a few weeks ago I did a spread for Trump, and I said that there was something really scary in the Lenormand cards for him. Something really interesting going this direction. I hesitate to say what I think this is, but I think we're going to see some tempers flare. We've got death, we've got messes that are hard to clean up later, that leave, problems that leave a mess for a long time. We've got an enemy fighting self-interest. In this context, this card makes me think of going to a foreign place and kind of digging in and being we're going to be here for a while because we've got some stuff to do. And again, duty to the country. So I feel like there's a really scary prediction right here. I'm not going to say it out loud, but come back in July. We'll check in on that and see what that one turned out to be. And then in the comments, someone asked about it, and I was like, maybe it has something to do with Ukraine and Russia, because that was the only pertinent war situation that I could think of right off the top of my head. But what was in the cards was war. It was pretty evident that those cards were talking about war. And I didn't want to say it because I was afraid of, I didn't want to be an alarmist or anything like that. I didn't want to scare anybody. But I feel like this very well could have something to do with how the war is going to play out. I think from now on I should probably go ahead and just say these things and just put a disclaimer on it, hey, this is all subject to change. This is all just my interpretation, my channeled message. I can definitely get things wrong, so don't be scared if I say hey, this looks like a bad sign. But anyway, just wanted to kind of throw that in because it's really been kind of hanging over my head that a few weeks ago I blatantly saw an indicator of war, but I didn't know what it meant. And I was like, what war? So I was hesitant to say it. Pretty intense. I think this reading itself is pretty intense. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I know this is kind of an off-the-wall little short reading, but I really wanted to share it with you because there's just a lot of big emotions here. And I guess if I had to summarize this, if it's not clear by the end what I'm talking about, I feel like this is us watching Trump face basically a reckoning day where he makes enormous mistakes publicly, and I feel like things are not going to go very well for him coming up soon. And I think that's also me just understating what I actually think about the situation, but I don't want to be too negative. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think it could be in reference to. Like I said, this is just a channeled message that I felt like was important enough to share. So I don't really know. We'll see, I guess. I think we'll see pretty soon. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, leave me a comment. And if you're new here and you like political divination, hit the subscribe button and stick around. And I'll see you guys in the next video.